At 32, I had it all: a thriving IT career, a cozy apartment, and the belief that family was everything. Then came Victor, my older brother, and his wife, Sophia. They were desperate to buy their dream house but short on cash. "Family helps family, Ethan," Victor said with a forced smile. His words sounded sincere, but his eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite place: guilt, relief. I handed over $45,000, nearly every penny I'd saved, trusting their promise to repay monthly. No contract, just a handshake. "You'll never regret this," Victor assured me, his voice steady but his grip on my shoulder tighter than usual. Little did I know, those words weren't a promise, they were a trap. Beneath their smiles lay a calculated plan. My money wasn't repayment, it was theirs for keeps. The cracks in our bond began to show almost immediately, though I refused to see them then. Looking back now, I realize how blind trust can be, both a gift and a curse. When the layoffs hit, my world crumbled. One day I was a self-sufficient IT professional with a steady paycheck. The next, I was unemployed and staring at an uncertain future. Victor and Sophia offered to let me stay just until I got back on my feet, they said. Their smiles seemed genuine, but their actions told a different story. Within weeks, I became their unpaid handyman, fixing everything from smart locks that refused to open to Alexa randomly playing heavy metal during dinner parties. They even demanded $800 monthly as rent, despite the fact that half of their house was paid for with my money. I tried to prove my worth by maintaining their smart home system, a masterpiece I'd built from scratch. Security cameras, flawless. Thermostat control, perfect. But no matter how much I fixed or improved, they treated me like an intruder in my own investment. Sophia would snap at me over trivial things, like using too much sugar in my coffee, while Victor conveniently forgot to include me in family dinners. The worst part, every time I fixed something, they acted like it was my duty, not gratitude. I wasn't Ethan, their brother, anymore. I was just the tech guy living off scraps of kindness they never truly meant to give. It was supposed to be an ordinary morning. I was making coffee, trying to stay out of their way, when I heard their voices drifting from the kitchen, sharp and cruel. "He's such a loser," Sophia sneered, her tone dripping with contempt. "Living off us like some pathetic parasite." Victor laughed, a cold, hollow sound that made my blood run cold. What did he expect? That we'd actually pay him back? Please. His money bought us this perfect life. New furniture, fancy landscaping. Why waste it on him? My hands froze mid-pour as the truth hit me like a freight train. The $45,000 I gave them wasn't repayment. It was theirs to splurge on designer couches and marble countertops. I didn't move. I couldn't. My phone was in my pocket, and instinct took over. I hit record. Years of working in IT security had drilled one rule into me: document everything. Their words kept coming, each one more venomous than the last. "Stupid little brother," Victor muttered. "Thinks family means something. As if we'd ever waste time paying him back." Sophia chimed in, her voice laced with mockery. "He's so gullible. Probably still believes we care about him." Every syllable felt like a knife twisting deeper. But the betrayal didn't stop there. Later that day, while organizing my files, I noticed something worse. The repayments they promised weren't going toward debt, they were funding shopping sprees at Best Buy and Pottery Barn. Receipts showed thousands spent on luxury items, all traced back to the account I funded. That's when it clicked. They never intended to repay me. They saw me not as family but as a walking ATM. Rage and hurt burned inside me, but beneath it was clarity. They thought I was weak, helpless, a fool. But what they didn't know was that I had evidence. Audio recordings, bank statements, forged signatures, all proof of their deception. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about justice. The explosion happened over something as trivial as sugar. I had used some in my coffee, and Sophia erupted like I'd committed a crime. "How dare you?" she shrieked, her voice piercing the quiet morning. Victor stormed in moments later, his face flushed with rage. "You ungrateful piece of trash. Living off us like a parasite." He spat, veins bulging on his neck. Before I could respond, they were grabbing my clothes from the closet, hurling them down the stairs. "Get out. You're worthless," Sophia sneered, her eyes cold with contempt. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just watched, my jaw clenched, as they dismantled my presence in the house I'd helped pay for. When they paused to catch their breath, I calmly walked to my laptop bag, my most valuable possession, and slung it over my shoulder. As I stepped out the door, their insults still ringing in my ears, I thought to myself, "You'll regret this." Every single word. Little did they know, that laptop contained everything I needed to dismantle their perfect little life: the passwords, the backups, the evidence. The game was far from over. After leaving Victor and Sophia's house, I moved in with Carson Reed, my best friend and a construction business owner. It was here, in Carson's guest room, that I began piecing together the evidence that would dismantle their perfect facade. Every document, every receipt, every recording, they all became pieces of a puzzle that painted a picture of betrayal so calculated it made my blood boil. First, I went through their bank statements, the repayments they promised. They were buying designer furniture at Best Buy and Pottery Barn, upgrading their lifestyle with my money. Then came the smoking gun. Daniel had forged my signature on several mortgage documents, something I only noticed when I stumbled across old paper files while cleaning up loose ends. High-resolution scans of those signatures now sit encrypted in 3 separate cloud locations. If they thought I was powerless, they were dead wrong. But the real kicker was Sophia's secret ledger. Hidden carelessly in the shared office space, it detailed her unlicensed tailoring business operating out of their garage. Cash-only transactions, no taxes reported. She wasn't just unethical, she was breaking the law. I copied every page, ensuring nothing could slip through the cracks. By the time I finished organizing everything, I had enough material to bury them socially, legally, and financially. And then there was the smart home system, the crown jewel of my revenge plan. Every camera angle, every thermostat setting, every garage door code, I still controlled it all. From Carson's laptop, I monitored their increasingly frantic attempts to fix the glitches I'd subtly introduced. Their security cameras failing. Not a coincidence. Flora's home office crashing during client meetings. Pure poetry. I didn't need to lift a finger. Their own greed and incompetence were doing the heavy lifting for me. Carson watched as I worked, occasionally handing me another beer. "You're not just some tech guy," he said one night. "You're building an empire." He was right. My skills weren't just about fixing problems anymore, they were about exposing truths. And as I lined up new IT security clients, including their next-door neighbor whose smart home mysteriously malfunctioned, I realized this wasn't just personal justice. It was the beginning of something bigger. The moment I left, their perfect smart home began to unravel, almost as if the house itself had turned against them. First, it was small annoyances, the garage door refusing to open at midnight, leaving them stranded outside in the cold. Victor's angry shouts echoed through the neighborhood as Sophia frantically pressed buttons on her phone, but nothing worked. "This is your fault," she hissed under her breath, blaming me even though I was miles away. Then came the bigger disasters. Their security cameras, the ones I installed to keep them safe, suddenly went dark during a string of minor burglaries in the area. A neighbor's shed got broken into, and Sophia panicked, convinced their house would be next. She texted me 5 times in one night, begging for help. But I didn't respond. What did they expect? That I'd rush back to fix the system they treated like their personal ATM? The piece de resistance happened during Sophia's big client presentation. Alexa, programmed to play soothing background music, instead blasted heavy metal at full volume right as Sophia started her pitch. Her face turned bead red as she fumbled with her phone, trying and failing to stop the chaos. The clients exchanged awkward glances while Sophia stammered excuses. When the system finally shut off 10 minutes later, her reputation had already taken a hit. Every glitch felt like poetic justice. They thought they could control everything, from my money to my life, but now they couldn't even control their own house. Each failure highlighted how utterly dependent they were on me and how powerless they became without my tech skills. By the time Daniel called, screaming threats about fixing this mess, I knew the game was mine to win. From the ashes of betrayal, I began rebuilding my life one client at a time. Staying with Carson gave me clarity. His belief in my skills reignited something inside me. Using the same IT expertise they mocked, I started taking on small security jobs for local clients. Ironically, their own neighbors became my first customers after their smart home systems mysteriously malfunctioned. "You wouldn't believe how many people need tech help around here," Carson joked over beers one night. He was right. Word spread quickly about the guy who could fix anything and charge triple what Victor and Sophia once begrudged me. Every contract felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I poured late nights into drafting plans for my own company, Phoenix Security Solutions, named for its mission, rising from the ashes of everything I lost. The irony wasn't lost on me. My biggest failures had forged this new path. With every setup I installed or security flaw I patched, I proved them wrong. Their insults, worthless leech, and grateful moocher, echoed faintly now, drowned out by success. By the time I finalized the paperwork, I already had 5 loyal clients, including their next-door neighbor. Watching Victor's face redden as he realized I'd taken over not just his house, but also his social circle was worth every sleepless night. My laptop became my weapon, my skills my armor. Each email notification for a new client felt like justice served cold. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The cracks in Victor and Sophia's perfect life began to widen rapidly. It started with Sophia's secret tailoring business, which I'd uncovered weeks earlier. Someone, let's just say Karma, has a sense of humor, tipped off the authorities about her unlicensed operation. The inspectors arrived during her busiest afternoon, catching her red-handed with piles of cash and no tax records. Her regular clients watched in stunned silence as she tried to explain herself, mascara running down her face. "This is all a misunderstanding," she cried, but the damage was done. Within hours, news spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Then came Victor's turn. During an important presentation at work, his laptop suddenly displayed his inappropriate browsing history across the conference screen courtesy of the smart home system I'd installed. His boss wasn't amused. By the end of the day, Victor was packing up his desk, humiliated and unemployed. He stormed into Carson's office later that week, screaming threats about legal action, but Carson's security cameras caught everything, including Victor throwing things in a fit of rage. Their social empire crumbled faster than they could deny it. Neighbors who once admired their perfect lifestyle now whispered behind their backs. Aunt Wendy, armed with evidence from my recordings, revealed their lies at a family barbecue. "You used his money to buy designer bags while calling him worthless," she snapped, holding up screenshots of their furniture receipts. The room fell silent as the truth sank in. Flora's Instagram posts about luxury living were mocked by followers who remembered her bragging about family helping family. Their carefully curated facade shattered like glass. Victor and Sophia spiraled into panic. They tried damage control, blaming everyone but themselves, but nothing worked. Every attempt to salvage their reputation only dug them deeper. Late at night, I'd see Sophia scrolling through old photos of their house, tears streaming down her face. Meanwhile, Victor frantically applied for jobs, only to be rejected each time. Karma had found them, and there was no escape. The family meeting was called at Aunt Wendy's house, a neutral ground where everyone gathered to resolve tensions. Victor and Sophia walked in first, their heads held high like nothing was wrong. Then I arrived, briefcase in hand, my heart pounding with anticipation. When Sophia saw me, she immediately launched into hysterics. "You ruined us. Everything's falling apart because of you." Her mascara streaked down her face as she pointed an accusatory finger at me, but this time, I wasn't the quiet victim they'd mocked for months. I placed the briefcase on the coffee table, opened it, and laid out the evidence one document at a time. First, the bank transfers showing my $45,000 loan. Then the receipts from Best Buy and Pottery Barn, proving how they spent my repayment money on luxury items instead of paying me back. Next came the forged signatures, Flora's secret ledger detailing her illegal business, and finally, the audio recordings of them laughing about my gullibility. The room fell silent as each revelation hit like a bomb. Uncle Rob dropped his coffee mug. Aunt Wendy gasped audibly. Victor tried to fight back, lunging toward me while shouting insults, but Carson stepped in calmly. "Touch him, and I'm calling the police," he warned, his voice steady. That stopped Victor cold. I smiled bitterly. "You think I'm worthless?" I said, pulling out one last piece of paper, the foreclosure notice on their house. "My company just bought your dream home." Their world crumbled right there. Flora collapsed into tears, screaming about how unfair it was, while Victor stood frozen, his face pale. They had lost everything, their house, their reputation, even their standing within the family. As people filed out of the room, some glaring at Victor and Sophia, others avoiding eye contact altogether, I knew they were finished. Within weeks, they moved to a cramped apartment in the next town over, their perfect Instagram life now a distant memory. And me? I moved into my new house, their old one, with plans to remodel every corner they once touched. The day I moved into the house Victor and Sophia once owned was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. Every step I took through the front door felt like reclaiming what they had stolen from me. The first thing I did, reset every single smart home system. Their codes no longer worked, their phones couldn't open the garage door or access the security cameras. It wasn't revenge, it was justice. Watching Flora try to force her way in one morning, only to be caught on camera, was priceless. I didn't stop there. The dining room, where Sophia used to brag about her perfect family life, got a complete makeover. Out went the granite countertops she bought with my repayment money, replaced by sleek custom designs I picked myself. Even the garden, her precious rose bushes, I replanted with something more suited to my taste. Every corner of that house now screamed me. When Thanksgiving rolled around, I invited the entire family, everyone except Victor and Sophia. As we sat around the table, laughter filling the air, I couldn't help but glance at the empty chairs where they used to sit. Aunt Wendy raised a glass. "To new beginnings," she said, her eyes meeting mine knowingly. Outside, Sophia posted tearful Instagram stories about toxic family members while living off ramen noodles in their cramped apartment. Karma truly has a sense of humor. Victor and Sophia were shadows of who they used to be. No house, no reputation, no pride. Meanwhile, I stood tall, hosting my first holiday in the home they thought would always be theirs. Life is funny that way, isn't it? As I sit in my new home office, the one Sophia once bragged about designing, I can't help but smile. Karma, it seems, has a way of balancing the scales. Every insult they hurled at me, every dollar they stole under the guise of family loyalty, it all came back to them tenfold. Watching Victor and Sophia lose everything they once cherished feels less like revenge and more like justice finally served. They taught me that trust isn't blind, it must be earned. But they also taught me something else, that fairness doesn't always come from confrontation. Sometimes, it comes naturally when people dig their own graves. Seeing their faces during that family meeting, realizing I had outplayed them so thoroughly, was priceless. The house they thought defined their success now belongs to me, the stupid little brother they mocked. And yet, as satisfying as this victory feels, it's not just about money or property. It's about proving that integrity matters, even when no one is watching. They called me naive, worthless, a fool, but now I own everything they ever dreamed of: the house, the business, the respect. If there's one lesson here, it's this: karma sees everything, and sometimes, being the fool means you're the last one standing. Every morning, I wake up in my new home, the house Victor and Sophia once thought defined their success, and smile at the irony. The kitchen countertops they bought with my money are gone, replaced by sleek custom designs that reflect my taste, not theirs. Their tacky granite is now a stunning marble surface, cold and smooth under my hands as I sip coffee. Even the garden has transformed. Those precious rose bushes Sophia obsessed over have been replaced with vibrant perennials. Every corner of this house screams me, and every detail reminds them of what they lost. My business, Phoenix Security Solutions, is thriving beyond my wildest dreams. Clients, many of whom are ironically their former neighbors, pay top dollar for services Daniel once dismissed as basic tech support. Word spreads fast when you deliver results. Carson jokes that I'm becoming the smart home king of the neighborhood. Meanwhile, Victor and Sophia still try to reach out, sending desperate texts or leaving tearful voicemails. "We can fix this," Sophia pleaded one night. My response: a screenshot folder labeled "Attempts at Redemption," a growing collection of their increasingly pathetic messages. The best part: watching them spiral. Last week, Sophia posted another Instagram rant about toxic family members ruining her life. Her followers, remembering her bragging days, roasted her in the comments. Wasn't this the same person who posted about buying a dream house with family help? One wrote, "Karma's sense of humor never fails to amuse me." As for Victor, he's been applying for jobs everywhere but keeps getting rejected. His LinkedIn profile remains eerily empty, a stark contrast to his once polished image. They're shadows of their former selves, while I stand tall, building something real. As I sit in my new office, their old master bedroom, I glance at the collage on my wall. It's a collection of old family photos Daniel left on my doorstep, paired with screenshots of their betrayal. Beneath it hangs the first dollar I earned from their neighbor's contracts, a reminder that karma doesn't just see, it acts with precision. They thought I was weak, naive, but life has a way of balancing scales we didn't even know were tipped. The house is mine now, the business thriving, and yet I don't feel triumphant, just resolved. Karma isn't about revenge, it's about truth finding its way to the surface. Their Instagram posts about forgiveness feel hollow now, mocked by followers who remember their lies. As for me, I've learned that trust must be earned, and justice often comes when least expected. On my wall hangs one final piece, an inspirational quote board I took from Flora's kitchen. Instead of her words about family values, I've replaced them with my own. Not every ending is happy, but some are simply right. Every time I look at it, I'm reminded of how far I've come and how they taught me the hardest lesson of all. Family can betray you, but karma never misses its mark.